The program that I've decided to introduce for my technology talk is called QuizCrafter, and this is a program that's available for Mac, and it allows teachers to create quizzes or tests which can be published online for their students to complete either within class time if they have computer access, or what's really great about it is they can complete these quizzes or tests at home, which can give them some extra practice to work on some areas where maybe they've been having some trouble and they need a bit more practice than maybe some of their peers do. So this is really helpful for mastery learning, especially for math, is the perspective that I'm coming from, that some students may need more time and more practice to be able to understand. So this tool connected to screencasts or video tutorials, similar to Khan Academy, but this allows teachers to really individualize the questions that they're asking, make sure that it really aligns with the wording that they use in class and on evaluations, as well as the curriculum. It's something like Khan Academy, it's based on the American curriculum. It doesn't always line up nicely for Ontario, especially for the applied and college level courses. So just to go over some of the basics of how to use QuizCrafter, and I'm pretty new to the program myself, so I don't know much more other than the basics. But to create a new test, going to the File menu at the top, we can then choose New Test. And then we can edit that. So I'm going to do a question on factoring. So I'm going to call this Factoring Practice. And then by changing the name of the section, this will show up now in our preview over here of this is what the quiz will look like. Right now, if I click on this section, the only questions that come up are all under this topic of simplifying polynomials. So I haven't actually inserted any questions on factoring yet. So let's go and do that now. So separate to creating the test is creating a bank of questions, and we can have many different sets. So clicking on there, right now we see that the only set that I have right now is simplifying polynomials, and I have several questions in there. But what I can do is choose to create a new set, and I'll call this one factoring. Let's say factoring quadratics to be specific. And then under that set, I can create a new question. So I can make this question either multiple choice or free response. So let's start with multiple choice. And I'll type in factor the expression below. Now, one other thing that's very useful for this program is for math teachers is that there's a nice little equation editing in here. So just by typing in an accent grave, so that's with the tilde top left corner of a Mac keyboard, by typing that in, it knows to format it nicely as an equation. That can sometimes be frustrating for other programs where you might need to have an equation editor and then save it as an image, and then if you want to change that question later on into a different version, it's much more difficult to do so. So I'm just going to say x squared minus x minus 6 is my expression that I would like to have factored. And the same formatting works in the answers as well. So the correct answer to that question is x minus 3 x plus 2, so that will be the correct answer. I'll put none of the above in part E, and then I can just put any other answers here. So let's just do x plus 3, x minus 2, x minus 1, x plus 6, and x plus 1, x minus 6. So if I've got everything in here now, if I exit out of this, I can now add this question to my quiz here. So if I edit it and I go into factoring practice, now at the bottom my new question is here. So I can select this question and say plus. And so any question that has been added to the quiz or the test now shows up in bold in this list. And one thing that we can do is if you've added multiple questions, you can decide for them to show up in a random order or in the order in which they were put into the question bank. You can also choose whether your questions are going to be in one column or two columns or three columns, and you can change the spacing between the questions as well. So that's pretty useful as far as formatting them goes. So if I just go quickly into a different test that I created by changing from one column to two columns to three columns, you can play around with the formatting there in order to make it look as well as it can. And so those are pretty much the basics of creating. The only other thing to look at is publishing, and that's really easy. So one thing that needs to be done is if you go into the QuizCrafter menu and preferences, you can create a roster of students. So for this, there's only 2 people who are going to really be doing this activity. And so I've created a login for each of those people. And then by clicking on publish, you can then say, publish this to these students. You can publish it to specific students or all of them. And you can publish it for specific periods of time. You can have the questions shown in a random order. You can allow people to retake the test. And then you click on publish. And so if something has been published, for example, this one, then it gets a share ID, and this is what gets added to the end of the URL for the QuizCrafter website in order to be able to take that quiz online. Another thing that is great about it is, so looking here, I've got the questions, and then I can switch over to looking at the answer key for the quiz. So if you wanted to print the quiz out and give it to students in class, you could also print out the answer key for quick marking. So those are really the basics of QuizCrafter. So I hope that you found this helpful and that you might give it a try in your own classrooms.